I'm Lawrence Fox. I am a graduate of Sac State. I have a master's and teaching credential from there, and I am a member of Renaissance Society now. So welcome to my house and collection. And this is the entrance. Well, the pieces that are on this wall, there are 4 prints that have to do with both my wallpaper here and basically about racism in America, and how I kind of put a happy face on it because it's got this happy wallpaper on the background, but it's a drawing I did a long time ago about Indians that with both Indians standing in a row, and there's also Indians from a picture of Wild Bill Cody and his Wild West show, where in the middle are pictures of people who have been tortured or have been killed. There's one I've done of a monk in Vietnam who basically set himself on fire. A long time ago there was a movie that Jane Fonda was in, and they basically the theme was they shoot horses, don't they? So, why don't you, torturing people or killing people is not a bad thing. If they shoot horses. And this series had to do with precious artworks that I made into paper artworks, 3-dimensional, because why couldn't I have these pieces in my house? Art is not about the money, it's about enjoyment and viewing things that really transport you to another place. I was interested in art having to do with both Maharajas and Sadhus, and also Persian Shahs, because of the disparaging income and status that people have, and sometimes you don't know who is in control and who isn't in control. Well, this is, there's a lot of paintings in here. This room is the Columbus room, but Frida Kahlo was actually the center of this room. I've got 3 Frida Kahlo pieces and lots of books in here. And but with Columbus, I also have the Pinta and the Santa Maria, and so anyway, I did a piece of Frida as Saint Frida, and there's also a little statue of her, and above her is a poster of Dolores Huerta, and above that is a print of Frida by Rupert Garcia. Besides the Maharajas, I also have done a small series on sadhus of India. When I went to Benares, which was really exciting, was floating across the river and going to the burning ghats of Benares. It just makes everything that people do seem so small. Mm-hmm. Because my philosophy is you only have today, you don't have yesterday, and you don't have tomorrow, you only have today. This is a painting I did. I didn't know I had the poster, but the painting and the poster were not done at the same time. And you saw that, okay. I did a whole show of the life of Frida Kahlo in small sculptures, so that's Frida, and also the painting of her. I also did about 20 sculptures of Frida, and right next to it is a poster from the Candy Store Gallery. I'll be talking more about the Candy Store later. Down below Frida is another piece I did of a painting that Frida did of herself as a wounded deer. And next to that is Keith Haring. He is, let me get his name right. Haring. Yeah, next to that is a piece on Keith Haring that I did as the Blue Boy. maybe we should talk a little. I can talk a little bit about Steve. I did tell you about the Steve Kaltenbach. He is the fellow that. Have you been to the Crocker?
I have.
He is the. Well, he was one of my teachers, but he did a piece of his father's dying. That was it's a painting about 15 by 20 feet, I think. Anyway, he's pretty well known in Sacramento because he's done a lot of public art. There is a fountain that he did on 13th Street between J and K, and he also has done other pieces on Capitol Avenue and Folsom Boulevard. This is a plate I did of the giant Buddha of Bamiyan Valley. I've done several pieces, including a 7-foot watercolor of him, but he was the same height as the Statue of Liberty, and it was destroyed by the Taliban about I think 15 years ago. But I went there twice and sat on his head twice, and it was 11 hours to go there from Kabul. But the valley itself was really magical. There was a little town it was on a hill that was destroyed by Genghis Khan, because Genghis Khan's grandson went there to try to overtake the people, but they killed him. So he came back and raised this town. It was called the town of the crying people, and it was right next to the valley, which became about 6th century A.D. It became a very famous Buddhist sanctuary where they had a lot of different statues and murals and places for people to live and study Buddhism. But that was all ended when the Mongols came through and basically took over the area, and everyone became Muslim. So we can go in. Let's go into the.
Okay.
Let's go into the parlor. This wall has a painting I did of myself as a model, with the model sitting over there, but I'm the nude model, and it was based on a photograph of Matisse. In the corner is a piece that I did. It's a mask of my mother and father on the moon, and I'm the dark side of the moon on or the sun in behind. I've done several pieces of having to do with my mother and father, and plates, and I also did a 7-foot watercolor of that also. And this painting here is by Joseph Raphael. He was one of my master teachers, and it was shown at the Crocker, at the Pilot Hill Collection of Contemporary Art. The posters there. And I call this room there's a collection of different sculptures I did, but I call this room the Good Girl, Bad Girl room, because the Good Girl is a 200-year-old statue or Santos of Madonna, and I made the base and the round ball and dressed her up, so she looks a little more finished than she did when I got her. She was only in her underwear when I got her. And right next to her is a painting or poster by Mel Ramos, and I have a couple of posters by different artists during the 60s, and a piece that I did, I won second place in a contest sort of show having to do with fakes, and I made this is based on a Richard Hamilton piece that was a collage that he did, but it was done when pop art started. As you can see, he's holding a Tootsie Roll Pop, and that was what started the term pop art. And the girl on the rocking horse is the bad girl in the room. She's got tattoos and a fancy hairdo and flames coming out of the bottom of the piece. I collect Ganeshas and really love elephants and have quite a collection of those. they're mostly pretty small, but I have my largest one is here, and all these things were picked up on trips or given to me by different people, and this is an interesting postcard because it was Maya Zack Peoples' house when she lived in San Francisco with David Zack, and it was where I had my English classes when I was going to the Art Institute. They painted the place on the outside with every board was a different color, and David Gilhooly made about an 8-foot alligator that's hanging on the front of it. I'm not sure if it was paper or what, but it was a very large alligator. That's another version of my parents on the moon. My father was in the Navy. My sister was born 3 days before Pearl Harbor, and he vowed that he would never sleep on the ground because he had to when he was a little kid, because they were coming from Iowa to California, and so he joined the Navy. So that was the reason he had left my mother, his sweetheart, in San Francisco. Well, I want to talk first about my landscapes. I really like doing landscapes, and I was on a trip studying trees and forests at American River, and I did different photographs and basically notes about the different places I saw. And so this was a painting of shooting star plants, and I just like paintings that have a nice feeling about them and some place that I can relate to. The 3 pieces on this wall, the bottom one is a portrait of Rick Castro. The middle one is a portrait I did of myself when I was living in Saudi Arabia. I worked for a company for a short time there. And the Candy Store Gallery, which was in Folsom. I basically learned a lot about art when I was growing up from the Candy Store Gallery. I became good friends with Adeliza McHugh when I was 13. When I was 13, I had been going to a library in downtown Folsom on Sutter Street, and one day I went there and the library was gone, and this woman was opening up a candy store there, and it turned out to be the Candy Store Gallery. And the woman's name was Adeliza McHugh, and I would be taking my bicycle over there and just going down and visiting her and learning about art and learning about what she thought about things. I actually ended up having a show there one time, but I met a lot of different artists and learned about a lot of art. One of my favorites was Jack Ogden, who did some wonderful paintings that had a lot of people, and they were always lots of fun things going on. So I really enjoyed that. But what I basically started off becoming an artist was learning about art from the Candy Store. When I was in the Peace Corps, I was doing training in Mashhad, and there was a famous place where they had one of the prophets of Islam, that was the Shiite Islam, was a temple there that was very famous. Anyway, everyone who went to this location would go and get their picture taken. So my group of Peace Corps volunteers, we had our picture taken at the studio because it was a thing to do. This is a car I made for the show I had of Frida Kahlo, and this is a trip that she took with Henry Ford and her husband Diego to a place in Michigan where Diego had a mural that was done, but the mural was finished by Diego, but because he had communist leaders in it, it was taken down by Henry Ford because he didn't want any communists in his business. So the car is made by me. It was not based exactly on a real car, but I thought it was kind of a toy car that would sort of have the feeling of a Ford. But I made or had fabricated all the pieces, and what I couldn't fabricate I found. So, and I made the clothes and everything that you see. This is a pot I did on Sutter's Fort and John Sutter. It was, I didn't make the pot, but I made the lid car, and I decorated it, and it starts off with a picture of Sutter's Fort, the way it probably looked, but there are flowers around the top, and there are different buildings. This is the Crocker. This is the picture of the governor's mansion, and this is Mary Ellen's house. People who are involved with Renaissance will probably know that. And then Sacramento was known for the capital of camellias, and so there's a camellia, and there's also different names that were Sacramento was known for, like Crow Town and Cow Town, and the Great Seal of California, because Sacramento is the capital, and this is a picture of Sutter pacifying the Indians, and Sutter's Butte, or the Sutter Butte. And then we go down to a picture of the state capitol, Crocker, and this house. Okay, this painting is about basically kind of a Southern California, Europe kind of point of view of just relaxing and having a wonderful time at the beach. But it always reminded me of the south of France or Southern California. Anyway, these are 4 paintings that I did of different friends. I was thinking of doing a series of old men, including me. So this is a friend named Chuck, Tony Natsoulis doing a raspberry, and Rick Castro, and me. This is a Maharaja with his attendant, and he's standing in sitting next to a part of his collection of the glacier that is the start of the Ganges River. And when the screen is folded, this is the river going into the ocean. This piece has to do with the problem that frogs have, because there was a time when frogs were losing limbs and gaining arms and having different things happening to them. So it was caused by some chemicals that were in the water, and so that's talking about global warming and talking about changes in our environment. This trunk was something I bought in Tehran when I was in the Peace Corps. I bought it because I loved the Contadina cans, because it reminded me of Dolores Huerta and the strikes that were done because of California's problems with labor, and how people were mistreating and not paying the labor correctly. So anyway, but I brought, this was on the airplane when I came back from the Peace Corps. These 3 paintings are ones I did of Emily Carr, Frida Kahlo, and Georgia O'Keeffe. They're the 3 great artists of Canada, Mexico, and America. And I don't want to be misogynistic and say they were great lady artists, but they were just great artists and were wonderful role models for a lot of people. They are still really vital in the art world to this day. This is one of the paintings I did of Frida Kahlo. She's there in a wheelchair with an umbrella and at a ruin, because I thought the ruin really reminded me of her life and her health at the end of her life. But she was also really loved people, and she loved having fun, and she was a very sensual woman. But and this is a collage I did of an Amazon Indian, and we can go down to Vivid Vision. It was my first poster of the pop art rock posters that I ever saw. It was done by Jack Ogden, and I bought it in I bought it in 1966 from the Beaux-Arts Ball, and just about 2 months ago, Jack signed it for me. But it was the first poster I ever bought. I did a show of having to do with Roy Rogers. It was Altars of the World, and it was a series of altars shows that were done about 10 years. But the altar for Roy Rogers was shown on TV with Happy Trails playing in the background. This is the painting up there is a painting of my dog Ramsey, and he was having a good day and a very happy smile on his face. And some of the posters I've collected, most of them were bought at Tower Gallery when they had posters and other artwork in Sacramento. So I hope everyone remembers Tower. And there is also a Tonka that I bought in Kathmandu for $10. I had it framed. I thought it's a really wonderful one, even though it's only $10. Things can be valuable without the prices to worry about. And over on this wall, there's a portal. I think of this as kind of a portal through life. And there's also me as the portrait head looked at by an anthropologist and a New Guinea man. And then I have other artwork by different people and myself. I did the print with the people in the car and the lions, which seems like a rather surreal situation. And over here on the right is a piece that was done by Anne Gregory originally. She gave me a little collage of herself and me as a New Guinea man, and her riding a bicycle in front of a tree, and it was in front of her house. And her house originally was, at that time, was 2 doors down from where I currently live, and the house across the street was a house that I own now too. So it's really kind of fun having things that have connections with other things that happen with your life. I have a few books. I was president of the Sacramento Book Collectors Club, and one of the reasons I always thought it was fun to be the president of the Book Collectors Club was then I was no longer considered a hoarder. Okay, I originally made the chicken for my friend Carol to have. She was having an exhibit at the State Fair one year, and I made the chicken, and I didn't realize the space she had was about the size of a medicine cabinet. So I took it to the State Fair. She couldn't use it with her exhibit, but it was shown at one of the locations in the State Fair for the run. And then I brought it home, and I brought it up here, and it's been here ever since on this front porch. But Cluck is the name of the chicken. It was on TV 3 times. It's been in News and Review twice, and it was called one of the most influential 100 things in Sacramento. It was considered the Midtown mascot, and so now it is being dressed up as a costume. People come by, and it's amazing all the people that I have talked to who walk by and discover things about the chicken and are just love the chicken. It's amazing. People have their own relationship with the chicken that I wouldn't even imagine.